Chris Day. He's an NHS whistleblower who's now working as an A&E locum doctor. Also here, Dr. Adam Dalby, who is a junior doctor and is now not supporting tomorrow's action. Welcome to you both. Dr. Dalby, you've gone through a bit of an evolution on this action. You were supporting it.
Yes.
You're not now. Why is that?
I looked at the contract in the whole when it was released on the 31st of March this year. And took a view that the contract itself was actually quite good. It had guardians in place. It had a 13.5% pay increase. I believe that the extended working week is something that we do have to deal with, unfortunately, if we are to help with the delivery of an NHS that works 7 days, which is really what the government's trying to introduce, and it has a democratic mandate to do that.
Dr. Chris Day, there has been progress made, as we heard from Dr. Dalby there. The pay issue has, to a certain degree, been resolved, hasn't it? 13.5%. There are more concessions for weekend working. So what is the problem?
Well, I think this situation, for me, boils down to should we as a nation be opposing, or even opposing vigorously, what is being done to the NHS? And by that I mean, should the junior doctor contract dispute be seen in a wider context? So if you take the fact that we're short of nurses, you know, why on earth would you get rid of the nursing bursary? If you're short of money, you know, we read of all these NHS trusts in deficit. Why on earth would you buy your spanking new hospital on PFI at huge interest rates?
I mean, bear in mind we are short of money. I mean, we've got a national deficit, we've got austerity, we've got taxes going up. Where do you think the money should come from, and how much?
Well, I'd love to just finish what I just said respectfully, if you don't mind.
Well, no, you made it clear that you think there are a whole series of shortages in the health service, and you obviously think they should be a priority for the government. I'm asking you where you think the money should come from.
No, that's not what I said. I said there's a deficit in NHS trusts, and they've chosen to buy spanking hospitals at high interest rates. They pay 8 times the value of the hospital back as part of PFI schemes. I'm just saying, you know, I'm giving you a wider context. I will focus on the junior doctor contract dispute, but, you know, we've heard of shortage of nurseries, getting with the nursing bursary. We've heard of hospital trusts borrowing at wild interest rates. And then I'd come to the Health and Social Care Act, which has taken the legal duty of the government to provide health care.
But you're a politician, you're not a doctor. You're taking on the entire health policy. I mean, do you think it's as dire as that in the health service, Dr. Dalby?
No, I don't, and I think that a junior doctor's contract dispute is not the appropriate place to be having a serious conversation about the future of our NHS. I love our NHS. I think it's a marvellous institution, and it's something I'm very proud of. It makes me proud to be British, but it's not in the context of a contract dispute something that should be discussed in that arena. So it should be just focused in on the contract dispute, and we can have a sensible, balanced, rational argument with strong heads and cross-party, hopefully.
But is there any hope of having any sensible, rational debate and argument when you've got the BMA and you've got Jeremy Hunt, and they are diametrically opposed, and both have said we're not giving ground?
I think they've both backed each other, backed themselves into a corner. The BMA have come out strongly and have really gone for it in terms of publicity. And they've tried to get the public on side quite vigorously, and also to try and get the junior doctors on side quite vigorously as well. They actually got them on side with claims of a 30% pay cut, which turned out not to be true, and that calculator was then removed from the BMA's website at a later date. Jeremy Hunt has tried to negotiate with the BMA, and I'm not here to defend the government position at all. Their communication hasn't been great. And there are still some questions to be answered.
There's no way we can negotiate when there's a contract being imposed, when there's imposition still on the table.
But they've had chance to negotiate. They've been able to come around a table, and you've got to give some in negotiation.
Perhaps it's just become political, Dr. Chris Day.
Okay, so I depoliticise it and focus on the contract, because I realise I should focus on the contract.
Well, no, it's just interesting.
No, let me just say what I think about the contract, because I realise this is what this is about. So the contract was imposed without an impact assessment. So that's actually susceptible to a legal challenge. You know, Mr. Hunt should have shown what is defined as due regard. and he did his impact assessment after the event. So that's that. It's potentially unlawful.
Well, it can be challenged. I mean,
yes,
they'll challenge it.
And then the BMA's position is, Mr. Hunt, all you need to do is to stop this strike is to potentially go back on what is an unlawful act, which is imposition without an equality assessment. So that's the first thing I'd say. Second thing I'd say is the contract discriminates. The way the pay progression is and the way that doctors are paid for their hourly rate out of hours is such that it gives a pay cut to junior doctors that are women and junior doctors that are long-term sick leave. Now, let me just say one more thing, and then I promise you I'll answer your question. The other thing is it discriminates against specialities. So acute specialities like emergency medicine that are already short-staffed, with the way the pay progression and the hourly rate's structured, they will get a pay cut. Yeah. We already don't have enough doctors in those specialities.
But see, the problem is, it seems to me that the various justifications who've been offered by the BMA and spokesmen we've talked to keep on shifting. I mean, originally it was a pay cut, then it was because of long hours being worked and dangers. Now you've come up with specific things. And at the end of all this, bearing in mind that many, many people do work at weekends in other professions without any rewards, my question to you is a strike, which means that people are going to suffer, really the way to address these issues?
Well, I work in emergency medicine, so I can only tackle the emergency medicine context of that question, and I can simply say that in the emergency departments there will be more consultants around. You will literally get a consultant delivered care. So there's a huge argument that your care will improve in your average emergency
but on that basis
department.
we don't need junior doctors ever. I mean, we'll just get the consultants to do all the work.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because they're there to train, aren't they? You know, from a service delivery, of course we'd prefer consultants to deliver our care, but where would the consultants of the future come from? And that's the dichotomy, isn't it, between training and service delivery. Should also say that the contract doesn't have whistleblowing protection, so junior doctors can't actually do unfair dismissal claims with that contract.
You obviously don't think a strike is the way to do it?
No, and especially not. I mean, I know the impact assessment hasn't been done and it can be legally challenged, but that legal challenge should go ahead before the strike action takes place, logically. It doesn't make any sense to do, if you believe in strike action, which I don't.
But you did.
I did at the time. I had a BMA propaganda.
I mean, I think I'm right in saying that about 40% of junior doctors are not striking. Isn't that right? We don't hear that, but I mean a lot of you registrars and others.
I think it was around 40% for the previous strikes that didn't include accident and emergency.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Dr. Adam Dalby and Dr. Chris Day, thank you.
Thank you.